All right. So the next thing that is quite important in supply chain setup. Okay. So the next thing that is quite important in the supply chain is cooperation. And here we are talking about the cooperation between different supply chain entities, different supply chain partners, right? Different companies, they have to work together to ensure that the supply chain activities are completed properly. One thing to also remember is that the end goal or the ultimate objective of having a streamlined and a high-performing supply chain is to ensure that our customers or our consumers are happy. That is the overall objective, overall goal, to ensure that we serve our customers to the best of our abilities. So this is very crucial. One thing that can help in achieving this common shared understanding or a shared goal to serve our customers is to ensure process integration. And I think I covered this a bit earlier on, where I told you that we need to have integrated and interconnected software systems or ICT infrastructure that will help companies and their to connect with each other, have access to the right information at the right time, so that they can deliver on their promise to their customers, or whether it is delivering the product on time, or is it the service that they are expecting. So either way, having an integrated process management in place improves the supply chain. Next thing to keep in mind is to maintain long-term relationships, right? It is on both sides, on the downstream with your suppliers and upstream with your customers. So having understanding of the customers or your suppliers' expectations and meeting them over time is very critical. And it's the major benefits that we will gain is by being in a long-term relationship with our customers. And again, I would like to take you to the example of Amazon's supply chain network in India. You can imagine it took how many years it took Amazon to first kind of set up the supply chain network. Yeah, and once it was set up, then executing it was much easier. But the effort and the planning and the execution that went into setting up the biggest supply chain network in India was a massive undertaking. And it was not a short-term project. It was a long-term, and it is an ongoing project that will be continuing to expand and even become more optimized. So long-term relationships with your customers and also with your suppliers are very important. So I'll skip this because we already had a break, but I had planned a break at this point here. Next, let's talk about how to streamline your supply chain. So firstly, I mean, one of the easiest way, or the first step, I would say, in terms of streamlining your supply chain is to review your supply chain processes. See and identify what activities that you are doing in your supply chain that can be improved or that can be reviewed and made even better. And this can help, you can benefit here by talking to your customers as well as your suppliers. Either the immediate suppliers and the customers, that is one level down on the left and one on the right, or you can even get the tier 3 suppliers as well to come on board this discussion, because every supply chain partner will have or will come with some useful insights on how they think that this that the supply chain can be improved, because they come to it from their perspective. That is, if such and such thing is done in the supply chain, their job will become faster, they will become easier, and they will be able to meet the requirements or the expectations of the customers. So that is the first step, to review and optimize your supply chain processes. The next thing is to integrate supply chain data from A to Z. And what I mean by that is having access to all the information that you need from the very extreme left, that is where you get your raw materials from your raw material suppliers, till the extreme right, which is your end consumer. So the entire chain, or all the participants who are involved in the supply chain, if you can integrate the supply chain data for this entire supply chain, it is going to improve your supply chain significantly. And that is something that needs to be thought carefully and action to get the best result. Next thing is to eliminate duplicate data. And I think I mentioned this earlier on as well, that having replicated and redundant data in the supply chain is going to make the supply chain bit unreliable, because maybe you are working on a wrong piece of information because there are multiple copies or multiple versions of the same information spread in the supply chain. So if you can work on a shared database where there is one source of truth, in that case, the value or the power of the data increases manyfold, because you know that you can rely and trust that data. And say if you're running any data analytics on the supply chain data, you know that the results that you're going to get are going to be really good and reliable. So keeping that in mind, eliminating duplicate data is critical in ensuring a streamlined and a better supply chain. Okay, moving on, leverage existing systems, right? You already have some systems in place. Many a times what happens is you do not use all the features or functionalities of a software that you have. And one of the reasons for that is you probably are not aware of that feature, or you have not been properly trained to use some features from the software. I mean, even if we take a simple example of using Microsoft Word, right? There are so many features in Microsoft Word which we probably do not use. We typically use all the common features that we want, that we use, but there may be some advanced tools and techniques and features that are there which we hardly use. But if we know these features exist and the benefits and the power of these systems or these functionalities, we can leverage those and speed up our work or improve our operations. So keep that in mind as well, that existing systems, if you're not using it to its full potential, then it may be worth to consider how you can improve it. It may be that you need to undertake some training to use your software systems, or it could be the company who can organize such training for their staff to leverage existing systems in their networks. Another thing to think about is to plan ahead, to think ahead. You know, what are the challenges that you may encounter in your supply chain? And this can be very time sensitive or time dependent. For example, if there is a festival coming up, you know that many companies would probably be running some specials, right? For example, there may be special sale run during Diwali or during Christmas or during New Year or something like that. So when we know that there is going to be a heightened demand or demand for the products, and the supply chain is going to be more more busy, we have to think ahead and plan accordingly, so that when we encounter that situation or that point of time, we are prepared for it. You know, it hasn't taken us by surprise. So if we have to do the training for the using new softwares, or if you have to keep sufficient stock at hand, or if you have to manufacture enough so that you can meet the demand for a festive season, all this thing has to be planned in advance. So you have to think ahead of how you are going to cater to that upcoming demand for products or services in this space. Okay. Next, I want to talk about supply chain challenges. Right, supply chain challenges, I think, is a very important topic to consider, because if you can identify what challenges your supply chain has and then prepare a strategy or make a plan of how you're going to address these challenges, your supply chain is going to be much, much better. Yeah, so identifying challenges and addressing the problems with those with your supply chain will be very helpful. Okay, so let's look at first one. First is data. Right, centralized data runs into data control issues. Right, what that means is you as an organization or as a company want to kind of guard your data very strongly, so that in a way that you are hesitant to share some of this data to your suppliers or to your customers on either end of the supply chain. And this is understood, yeah, because it may be commercially sensitive information that you want to keep it to yourself and do not share it, or it could be some other reason why you do not want to share this information. But if you are able to generate more value or get more value by sharing portions of this data to your supply chain partners, I think the outcome can be beneficial. So having to let go a bit of control and providing some information, some data to your supply chain partners is going to be, I know it can be challenging to execute this, but if you can think of a strategy of how you can execute it, I think it will be in a very good situation. The next challenge is data access in a centralized system. Again, taking up on the same point, if you can provide access to your database for your suppliers downstream or consumers or customers upstream, it is going to help them in achieving their objectives, achieving their or completing their work, right? So figure out a way of how you can provide access to these users or to these partners. Because if you remember earlier on, I said that you have to work together with your supply chain partners. So if you are able to do that, if you are able to build up that bit of level of trust, so to share some information with them, your supply chain is going to be much more productive and much more optimized. Another thing, a challenge within supply chain is the supply chain partner itself do not trust the software systems that they are using. And this goes back to my point earlier, where I said that because companies are employees are not trained properly to work on such systems, they may be hesitant to use such systems, and as a result, they may kind of feel that these systems are not really useful or reliable, and then hence they do not trust these systems. So navigating that challenge, and probably by running some training seminars or training sessions to actually show the power of supply chain software to its users, I think is one way to address this challenge. Another challenge is actors or the supply chain partners keep entering and leaving the supply chain. And this happens because you may choose a different supplier, or you may choose a different customer in your supply chain. So that continuous and ongoing change also in a way disrupts the supply chain, because when a supplier leaves or when a customer leaves from your supply chain network, you are in fact losing some knowledge, right? So maybe you have worked with this supplier for a few years. There is a good understanding of how the business works. They know what you are expecting. You know what they are expecting. Everything is happening seamlessly. Everything is delivered on time. It's up to a good quality and so on. But for some reason, this supplier now decides to leave. Yeah, and then you have to either look for a new supplier, and it takes that additional amount of time to bring this new supplier up to speed to how you are actually working with your previous supplier. So this is a challenge, and I don't think there is any solution to this problem. But the only thing that you can do in this case is to ensure that you have a strong, trusted relationship with your suppliers so that they do not leave you. Because it's not that they just leave, but it has a very negative impact on your supply chain, which till that point would have been performing very nicely. The next challenge is poor supply chain visibility. And this again goes back to the same topic, the issue that I mentioned, and that is about information sharing or data sharing. If all your software systems are connected to each other, there is a very nice or a complete visibility of the entire supply chain. But if some partners, some companies have a very advanced software system, whereas others do not have a strong or a very advanced software infrastructure, this can create bottlenecks, hurdles in how information is shared. So gaining visibility in your supply chain is a very important competitive advantage, compared to somebody, your competitor, who does not have the same level of visibility. So try to figure out a way of how this challenge can be resolved. Our next challenge relates to visibility, and this is about lack of traceability and transparency. So within a supply chain, if you think about a product, right? A product is manufactured by a manufacturer, shipped by a transport company, stored at a warehouse, sold by a retailer, and purchased by a consumer, right? That is the supply chain. So we need to have traceability in this entire supply chain. And why is traceability important? Traceability is important if we want to know where the product is at any particular point of time. If it is already sold to the consumer, right? And for some reason, the product is defective, and we need to have a massive recall, which happened to one of the car companies recently, where I think the airbags or the brake pads were not proper, and they had where the brake pads were not of good quality, and they had to do a massive recall globally. Traceability would have played a very important role if we knew who the consumer is when they purchase the product, whether that particular brake pad or airbags are there in that model of car, or not. So that information is very important in such situations. In case of food items, right? If we are eating, if it's a product, an edible product, traceability is important because in a case something goes wrong, we can trace the entire supply chain. We have a complete provenance of information of where this particular product or this produce was grown, or where it was packaged, or wherever there could be a chance of some problem coming into the food supply chain. So traceability and transparency is very important, and it is currently not there the level at which we want it. With blockchain technology, this will improve substantially, and we will cover this in the future sessions. So supply chain visibility is the ability to know exactly where things are at any point in time, or where they have been and why. So that is the complete visibility of a product, right? So where they are at any point of time, where they have been, which means in the past, and why were they there? What was the reason? If it was not supposed to be there, and if the product happens to be there, then we need to know why it was there. So that is supply chain visibility, and it is very crucial and very critical to have very good supply chain, very good visibility in your supply chain, because you can take really high quality informed decisions when you are aware and when you have a complete visibility in your supply chain. Okay, next I want to talk about drivers for interoperability, right? Interoperability is important because basically what it means is all the business partners in a supply chain, they are all interconnected, right? They are connected with each other. They share information, they share knowledge, with the overall objective or aim is to all the parties should benefit, should make a profit in the end by performing good quality, by having a good quality supply chain, right? So what is one of the drivers for interoperability? Why we should have interoperable supply chains, right? Why should different partners in the supply chain interact with each other? So efficiency, availability, and consistency. So these are, let's say three drivers. If we have interoperable supply chain, that supply chain is very efficient, right? With the interoperability also comes availability, which means all the information that you need is available at any given point of time. So going back to the visibility aspect that I just discussed. And the next bit is consistency. So if all the systems, all the software systems that are used by all the different supply chain partners are interconnected, are synced with each other, it provides consistency in the information that is recorded there and the information that is accessed through those records. So that's why interoperability is quite important. Interoperability also helps to break down data silos, right? I mentioned earlier as well that companies many times try to kind of control the data that they have. They are hesitant to share this information even with their suppliers or their tier one customers. But that actually has more negative results rather than any positive outcomes. So interoperability helps to break down these data silos. The next thing that interoperability helps, or why we need interoperability, is because it provides data integrity. I mentioned earlier on that if there are multiple copies of a document spread across different databases that are managed by different supply chain partners, at one point of time, if you want to request the information or a document or a purchase order or an invoice, there could be multiple copies of that, and you don't know which one is the most latest one, yeah, or which one is the most the correct one. So in that case, if you have interoperable systems, that will resolve this problem, that will resolve this challenge, and you will have a better data sharing across your partners, and it will help, it will give you the right authentic data that you need for making this systems work. Next benefit is supply chain visibility. I think I already spoke about supply chain visibility just then, that if you have visibility in your supply chain, then it's very good. But if you have interoperable systems, the level of visibility that you can gain or that you can get through interoperable systems, that is just very, very good. It's really good to have such an detailed visibility in your supply chain. The next thing that you can think about is automated business processes. So if one system can talk to another software system, so this is company A, this is company B, right? Company A's software system can talk to company's B software system, which means that they are interoperable, they are connected to each other. It can help a lot to automate a lot of business processes, right? For example, if I am a company, going back to the previous example, I am a car manufacturer, and one of my supplier is the wheel manufacturer. So they manufacture wheels for my car. If I receive an order from my customer that I need 100 cars, if my software is interoperable with my wheel manufacturer company, as soon as I receive an order of 100, my software can automatically connect with the other software and say that we need to manufacture 100 wheels, right? That automated business processes can be achieved through blockchain using a concept called as smart contracts. So we'll talk about it in the next session, in session 2. But having automated systems does help in streamlining the supply chain. So you can even automate it from this end, where the request comes for 100 cars, and it automatically goes to the one supplier downstream, and they get their order, and they can start working on it or manufacturing it, which means they can even have to send it to somebody else, their downstream suppliers, to get the metal or to get the nuts and bolts or whatever they need. So that whole supply chain, if it is integrated, you can imagine it as like interconnected pipes. Some information or water is coming from here, it seamlessly goes all the way till the end. So if the data comes from this pipe, it seamlessly goes all the way till the end. And this just improves the whole supply chain performance. This also relates to interoperable data sharing, right? When you're sharing your data, if this pipe is there, it becomes much easier for all the parties, all the entities and companies to share information or share data. Another reason why interoperability is becoming much important is there is global competition, right? Companies are competing not only in their local market in their own country, but the competition is now global. So one of the ways to benefit or be competitive is to have advanced software systems that that connect with each other and do the job as quickly as possible, giving you that a competitive advantage in terms of time. Time is very valuable. If you can save time in getting this information from here to here and then sending it to here, that is a big saving compared to your competitor who has to do it manually, right? So you are getting value, getting more, you're progressing faster because you have interoperable systems. Another reason is supply uncertainties. If again, if I go back to the same example, I need 100 cars, and so which means I need 100 wheels. If the supply is uncertain, the supply of the raw materials will also be uncertain. So having more and more reliable information will put you in a situation where you are in a much better position to forecast your supply and your demand. So similar to supply uncertainties, there can be demand uncertainties as well. If you don't know how many cars need to be manufactured, because your customers on this end do not tell you how many cars they need, you have to take some risk to decide what the demand would be and manufacture according to that. So how can you reduce this demand level uncertainties? Is by having a good prediction, good forecasting models, and that needs reliable and accessible data and accessible information. It also improves operational performance. Yeah. So if you have good interoperable systems, your performance, your operational performance improves, and that again means that you are more competitive in the market. It will also help you to improve your business processes and business performance, because in the end, if you are operationally efficient, which means you will save time. If you save time, which means you will make more profit. So it is good for your business. Another thing is, one of the other drivers for interoperability is regulatory pressure. Right? These days, governments across the world are putting pressure on companies to have a more transparent and a visible supply chain, not only from a perspective of optimizing the supply chain, but more so from a energy efficiency point of view, or pollution from the perspective of reducing pollution. Governments around the world are now pushing companies to record how much emissions they make, and can they prove that the emissions, how much emissions they have made for manufacturing a particular product or delivering a particular service. If you search for the concept called as ESG, I think it will give you an idea of what I'm referring to here, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about it in the tutorial. Talk about it in the tutorial session. Okay. Now coming to the benefits of interoperability. With interoperable systems, you have a better visibility in your inventory, right? You know what your suppliers have, what your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 suppliers have, what are their stock levels. Are you in a position to manufacture, say, 100 cars? Just by looking at the stocks of your tier 1, 2, and 3 suppliers, you can make a better judgment of if you can manufacture 100 units or 100 cars or not. There could also be a seamless delivery experience for the customers, because for them it is, I ordered a product and I should receive it. What happens in the background is none of their concern, but it becomes a concern for you as a provider, as a partner, as a company within the supply chain, to ensure that your customers receive what they have requested. Another benefit is improved demand forecasts. So if you have a good access to information about your suppliers and their inventory levels, you can in a better position to ensure that if you get a demand, you can be able to satisfy it or not. It also gives a very great customer experience in terms of having the right product reach the customer in the right time and in the right good quality. It also helps improve your cost savings. I gave you many examples already about how much you can save by having access to the information. And it is not only tangible savings, but it is also opportunistic cost, right? If you had the right information, you could take on a larger order from your customer and supply it on time. But if you do not have the information or visibility on the stock levels of your tier 1, 2, or 3 suppliers, you may not be able to take a very comfortable and informed judgment on whether you should take this new order or not. So if you can do, it will not only help you save money, but it will also increase your profits. This also helps you to improve or have better working relationships with all your supply chain partners during the course of delivering a product or meeting your customers' requests. And this is important from a point of view of, like what I mentioned earlier on, of having that long-term relationship with your suppliers. So if you have good working relationships, I think the suppliers or your tier 1, tier 2 customers would like to continue to work with you. Having the right information at hand also helps you to make faster decisions and better decisions. Okay, so keeping that in mind, the value of data is enormous, and value of right data or right information is even much more important than just having the data. Okay, so making faster and better decisions eventually helps the organizations to flourish, to make more profits, and to satisfy their customers. Okay, so that finishes the first lecture for today, where I wanted to cover and give you a background on supply chain and the benefits of supply chain, and how data, information, and interoperability plays a very crucial role in ensuring a streamlined supply chain. Okay, so I will stop here, and we have time for questions. I'll be happy to take some questions from you all.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So you have discussed about integrity of data about for the supply chain management. So how this will that integrity of data you are saying about that, how we can able to do the integrity? That means we can able to do the integration of the various data, and you can make the supply chain management more effective, more productive. So as you are talking about integrity, so what are the data basically you are looking for do the or you can integrate?
Okay, so I think when we talk about data integrity, it refers to having the right information to the right actor or participant in the supply chain at the right time, right? If you have inconsistent information in the supply chain, it will result in wrong decisions that could be made because the information that you had at hand was incorrect. if you want to have data integrity in the supply chain, there are two ways in which you can achieve this. One is where can the problem happen in terms of data integrity? Why can the data become wrong? Yeah. Where is the source of this wrong information? And the most common source for wrong information is because of manual intervention, where people are adding some information to a database. They can make a mistake. And it's a manual, it's a human error that can creep in, yeah, resulting in incorrect information. On the other hand, if you have information that is generated by devices and captured automatically through some sensors, then that information is much more reliable and you will not have issues related to integrity. So imagine a scenario where you have some sensors, or if you have some CCTV camera that is capturing some activity in the supply chain. We can use data analytics to kind of infer what's going on. Either if the data is coming from a sensor, which could be textual data or numerical data, or if we are running some analytics on a video footage, we can figure out what's going on in terms of, if it is a delivery, we can count how many boxes were delivered or how many pallets were delivered. Or if it is a pickup, we can figure out how many containers or how many pallets were picked, and so on. So if we can integrate technology in data capture at that phase, data integrity is very high. If the data capture is done manually, there could be issues or occasions where data can be, may not be correct.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else has any questions?
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Shivakti.
Myself, Shivasakti, sir. If blockchain is always required to in internet facilities, sir?
Yes, blockchain is like a network, right? So it has to have access to the internet.
Without internet, we make in small size of blockchain. Is it possible, sir?
Without, could you repeat that?
Even without internet, because of in more remote villages does not consist of in continuity internet facility.
Yeah.
If maybe in our blockchain, maybe in applicable of in one village application means that time without internet maybe is possible to connected to in blockchain technology, sir.
Okay. All right. So the question was, just for the sake of everyone else, I'll repeat the question. The question is, can blockchain operate if there is no internet? Okay. So the answer, the simple answer is no. For the blockchain network to operate, we need to have network connectivity. However, we can build solutions that can cater to such situations where there is no internet connectivity. And me and my team have built one such software, a blockchain platform called as HiTrack. You can check the website later on if you want. It is HITRACK.io. And HiTrack is a supply chain solution for agriculture industry. And we faced with the same problem that you mentioned, that in the remote areas, even in Australia, they do not have network connectivity. So what we did to address that problem was we built a mobile app for the farmers to use, using which the farmers could capture any information that they want to capture on the blockchain. For example, they are taking photos, right, of the crop, or photos of the seeds that they are going to plant on the farm. All these photos are geotagged, which means we know that the GPS location, the latitude and longitude, is recorded on the for each photo, each picture that is taken. So we record all this information and it is stored locally on the phone. And when the phone gets into a network coverage, then that information is pushed to the blockchain. So till then, it is locally recorded on the mobile device. And as soon as it gets the network, it will be pushed to the blockchain. Does that answer your question?
Sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely, sir. First of all, we have stored the information. Then, when we get the internet facility, that time we are automatically uploaded.
Yeah,
okay.
That's yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If another one question, sir.
Yeah.
Even in blockchain is always required to in step-by-step process because of in chain management. If updated to in every moment is required, sir.
I did not understand your question. Can you rephrase that?
Even in told in supply chain management.
Yeah.
Supply chain management, even in delivery boy is also once upon a time entered, and another received person are also entered. And each time for in entered is too difficult for updated to in blockchain, sir.
Yeah. So the question was when if it's a delivery scenario where the delivery boy delivers something and the customer receives something, what all information would be stored on the blockchain? So to answer your question, we can, when we design or when we architect a blockchain system, we decide what information we would want to store on the blockchain. Okay, so we can identify what are the most important information that has to go onto the blockchain. And if that information or that event happens when that information is generated, we can store that or share that information to the blockchain. Not all information needs to go onto the blockchain, but we go through an exercise where we decide what is the most relevant information for this particular scenario. And then we will decide when we build the blockchain, we will decide that only this information should go to the blockchain.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, if you don't have any questions now, but if you do get any other questions after a while, then make sure that you record, type those questions in the Google document, and I will try to answer them during the tutorial session. And I will send a copy of this slides to Malaynath now. He can circulate it in the group, or I can copy it into the WhatsApp group if that is okay.
Anything is fine, sir. You can copy to the WhatsApp group as well as you mark a copy to me to my email so that I can share to IIT Kharagpur.
So the file is quite big, so I think I'll just share it on WhatsApp, and then you can download it and send it to IIT.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I think we can conclude the session now, and we will join again in 1.5 hours. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, cool. So 2 o'clock Indian time, we will start again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you in the tutorial session.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.